Well, thank you very much for having me. This will be a different take from a public sector sort of perspective. And thank you to Michael and Jared, and I look forward to us discussing, I guess, the outcomes of the reports a bit further. But I start by sort of saying strong, responsive, diverse, confident, trustworthy. As a leader of a 100,000 strong workforce, these words crystallise, in my mind, what our South Australian public sector must be to serve our state and our community well. As Michael and Jared have explored today, CEDA's latest community pulse is important in a global and national context. It taps into what the community cares about, where we've connected, and as we've heard about, where there is a disconnect. The South Australian results are broadly consistent with the natural results, or we're far happier at work, and that must be the travel time or a much more livable city. For the South Australian public sector, there is much to be gained by putting a lens on the findings, so I really thank you, CEDA, for the reports, because it actually helped me think about, I guess, what citizens are actually thinking about in terms of public sector. Our sector is South Australia's largest employer, employing 1 in 8 workers. As both the Commissioner for Public Sector Employment and Acting Chief Executive of the Department of Premier and Cabinet, I believe it's essential we have a good understanding about how people feel about their work. The South Australian Government is responsible for providing services to more than 1.7 million people, and as a major direct service provider, the quality and efficiency of public services are critical to the state's economy. It is of little surprise that the report identifies that work environment is critical for wellbeing and that productivity is influenced by employee happiness and wellbeing. Who you work for and how you are led is critical for people's wellbeing. And that job security, flexible working, career progression and workplace conditions are very important for job satisfaction. As a sector, our size alone will not garner the community's trust or motivate our people. We must continually work to ensure that we are the employer of choice, as everyone should. This means we must attract and retain the best leaders that can inspire and lead a dedicated workforce. We must embed our code of ethics, values and behaviours, which we've been doing, to drive performance and productivity. We must be flexible and offer excellent career paths, and we saw what some of the results were saying about people's nervousness about what happens to jobs when they're not secure. We've got to be innovative, in particular in the public sector. We have to celebrate diversity and drive progress, be responsive and inclusive, and we need to give the people the right tools so they can flourish, which is that question around training and development. But most importantly for the public sector, we must be in touch with what the community cares about and what's important to South Australians. Like the survey results, as our sector, we want to drive job opportunities for young adults through our trainee and graduate programs. And I'd like to proudly say, with some of my colleagues on the table here, that we've actually had over 800 young people go through our Jobs for Youth program, and I think we've got to do more as large employers to get more young people into our workforces. We've got to give them excellent training and meaningful pathways to employment. We've also found flexible work and flexible careers as standard business practice can lift organisational performance, and this enables more people to participate in the workforce. Work-life balance was one of the most important matter after job security, including travel time, flexible work options and time to refresh. So the measure of our success, and if we're ultimately be known as the employer of choice, is deeply seated really in culture. Later this year, I'll invite our workforce, I think for the very first time in the South Australian public sector, to participate in a voluntary whole-of-government survey to find out what's important to them, what they care about, what drives them, and where can we improve. Like we are exploring today, fleshing out what disconnects our workers will be critical. We need data to help identify and reconcile these gaps and drive performance and improvement. And in my view, this will help us to be in an even stronger position to keep driving reform through innovation. The CEDA survey has found for government to have the political capital to implement the right policy settings, the community needs to have trust that the benefits will be shared broadly. It's very important for government to think about this, and it's a critical result out of the survey. More and more, a city or country's economic and political agendas must connect with the community's aspirations and interests, and that's what I found really eye-opening in this current survey. Having advocated public sector reform for many years, I know firsthand it can be a very big challenge to implement and change mindsets. But an ambitious reform program is essential to create the right environment for businesses to want to invest and grow employment and to generate prosperity for all South Australians. As I was saying on my table earlier, I think it's a very exciting time for the South Australian public sector. The public sector has responded well to our new government, feels excited about where we're going, and today's announcement that Jim McDowell will head up the public service gives us a really big opportunity to look outwardly in terms of what the public service can do to pull the right levers to make this state great. We must always tap into the community's pulse to listen, to learn and to act. So community satisfaction is so important. As a public servant, I thank the community for sharing what they feel they're disconnected from, and I'll use that information. So doing so will help us build a strong, confident, diverse and responsive public sector that can serve our community even better. And I look forward to some questions from the group. Thank you very much.